The rupee has slipped today as investors remain cautious on risky assets. The global growth fears weigh and lackluster domestic markets also are weighing onto the rupee sentiment. So there you have 0.5% of a decline coming into the markets today. Let's get in then, Mr. A.V. Rajwade. He's Forex and Treasury Risk Management Consultant, Rajwade and Company, and he joins us in Mumbai. Mr. Rajwade, hi, welcome to the show. What's your sense on what the rupee is doing and what cues are you taking in from the inflation and IIP numbers in this week?
Well, I mean, I'm not bullish on either of those numbers. And I imagine that you talked about the monsoon and etc. a few minutes back. I think that might come in very useful for our policymakers if we are running into further bad weather, because then along with Europe, monsoons can be blamed. And therefore it avoids the need for doing any introspection. I think nothing really has happened. What we have seen is capital flows, the regime has been very unfriendly. Many are voting with their feet by trying to go out at what kind of prices they are. Not only I'm talking of FIIs but FDIs as well. The last auction for investments in the bond market, it has hardly been subscribed, and I think that shows how much interest India is having in terms of the overall capital situation. Meantime, I think crude oil prices have gone once again above 100. We are importing rather than exporting iron ore, which used to be a fairly significant item. We'll probably be forced to import coal, and I think most of the sort of problems are being faced by labor-intensive industries. So we could also be building social tensions. So I think I am getting more and more worried. I think the downward pressure on the rupee, in my view, likely to persist because no decisive actions or decisive steps on any of the major issues have been taken. Yes, the Prime Minister has experience of handling bad situations in 1991 when he was the finance minister, but I think two major differences. Much of the policy agenda then was dictated by the IMF. Today we have still to reach that stage. And second, he had a political master to pilot the whole thing through Parliament, Mr. Narasimha Rao. Now today we lack I think both these impulses. So I'm not sure that any kind of radical steps which to my mind are badly needed would get taken, and I think for the foreseeable future I see the downward pressure continuing.
Mr. Rajwade, then how would you read the recent volatility when we did see the rupee appreciate quite a bit, nearly 5% in those 5 days previously, after that declined further? Would you say it's purely news-based or sentiment or speculation that seems to be driving the rupee around?
I think it was, to my mind, some kind of a sentiment based on the fact that, after all, much criticized Mr. Mukherjee is giving way to a hopefully surer hand, which is the Prime Minister's. I think it perhaps, and we don't get the figures as quickly as one would like. The RBI also intervened in the market in order to support that sentiment. But then, yes, it did go from 57 to 55. But I think, again, the sort of trend has started. And, I mean, I have always maintained that the only way to stop it is if the RBI is willing to intervene on a large enough scale. But that has a lot of other macro implications in terms of money supply, growth, and interest rates, and various other things. So, there are limitations to what the central bank by itself can do unless we have a total package of measures which is sold to Parliament.
Let me get you in the conversation as well. And what's your sense, Vijay, on where the rupee could be headed for the very near term on charts?
I talked about 54.5 being the absolute top the rupee could appreciate to. I wouldn't wait for 54.5 to buy the USD now. Probably I'll start nibbling into long positions at 55 itself, because I do get the feeling that should the dollar head towards the 55 mark, declines will be bought into. And once we go past the 56.60 or 56.65, the rally could actually gain more traction and accelerate because of sheer bear covering alone. So my guess is another percent and a quarter from here at lower levels, say 55 odd levels, I would start going long USD again. And as I said yesterday, the long USD short rupee story remains intact.
All right, so on charts and by fundamentals, the rupee does look weak and can continue to decline. Mr. Rajwade, Vijay, thank you so much for joining us.